When we talk about API gateways, most people think they just route traffic. In real enterprise platforms, that's not true. A common misconception is that the gateway is just a smart load balancer. In practice, the gateway is responsible for enforcing contracts, security, and consistency across hundreds of applications. If you misunderstand this, auth and platform designs tend to break down very quickly. Let's start with a high level view. A client makes a request using a DNS name. That DNS resolves to a virtual IP or VIP. The VIP forwards traffic to API gateway, and only after that does the request reaches a backend service. Most of the important decisions happen before the service sees the request. The first critical step is TLS. The gateway terminates TLS and validates the certificate for the incoming request. This is why certificate management becomes a platform concern at scale. If every service handled its own TLS differently, you'd get inconsistency, outages, and security gaps very quickly. Next comes authentication. The gateway validates a token, for example, a JWT, and verifies that it's issued by a trusted entity provider. At this point, the gateway establishes identity context. This answers the question, who is making this request? Doing this centrally prevents every service from re-implementing auth logic slightly differently. Authentication alone isn't enough. Authentic authorization checks whether this identity is allowed to access this API, method, or resource. Policies like scopes, roles, or claims are evaluated here. Centralizing authorization at the gateway level is what allows platform to enforce consistent access rules across many teams. Only after TLS authentication and authorization does the gateway route the request to backend service. By the time the service receives it, the request is already trusted and well formed. The service can now focus on business logic instead of security plumbing. There are few common mistakes I see repeatedly. One is pushing authentication and authorization deep into every service. Another is treating certificates as purely an ops problem. And a third is allowing every team to define its own gateway behavior. These choices don't scale and usually leads to outages or security reviews later. A useful mental model in this, the API gateway is not just a router. It's a contract enforcer. It enforces security, identity, and policy before traffic reaches your service. Once you see it this way, many platform design decisions become much clearer. In the next video, I'll talk about where an Envoy fits into this architecture, and just as importantly, where it shouldn't be used. This is System Boundaries, where we explain how real systems define the trust. Thanks for listening.